just before I hand over to Peter Kanowski, I think you've all met before, two announcements about things on the radio and TV tonight relevant to the course. The first is the Radio National Talkback Program, which is a national talkback program, and it's looking at issues relating to population. So we have a panel, I think, in 3 weeks, looking at what population different people think Australia can sustainably support. And this discussion will tie in nicely to what Peter's talking about this morning. And tonight on ABC TV, Four Corners, which is on 8:30 tonight, repeated tomorrow at midday, with a special on climate change and community farming responses to it. And one of the main organisations featured is run by an ex-student of the Fenner School, who's organised in the virtue cropping group. So it's, again, it's interesting to see what kinds of things former students in this course are doing, but also that program will relate very directly to Andy Campbell's panel last week, and I'm sure to what Peter Kanowski said today. So it's a pleasure to hand over to Peter.
Hi everyone, I welcomed you in the first day of semester, those of you who aren't in SRES 1004, so I'd like to welcome you again if you weren't here then. Or don't remember what happened on the first day of semester. Just heard a first day of the week's yawn, so I guess semester's taking its toll already, as it does. But I hope you're having a very good learning semester. I want to talk today about state of environment reporting, and to do that I'll begin with a bit of background about the concept of sustainability. But before I go on to that, I'd like you to talk briefly for about 2 minutes with your neighbour and answer these two questions. If you're an Australian, think about the Australian environment. If you're from somewhere else, think about that environment. Do you think the environment's in better or worse shape now than it was when you were born? And on what basis do you make that judgment? So I'll ask for some views on that in 2 minutes. Okay, quick show of hands. I'm going to ask first who thinks the environment's in better shape than when they were born. Then I'm going to ask who thinks the environment's in worse shape. Okay, first of all, and then I'll ask who thinks it's in about the same shape as when you were born. First of all, who thinks the environment's in better shape than when you were born? What have you been doing during your lives? Who thinks it's in worse shape? Almost everyone. Who thinks it's about the same? Okay, can we hear from those who think it's in worse shape, the overwhelming majority? Why do you have that view? What have you done during your lifetime that's made things so much worse? That's what I'm worried about.
Well, there's been increased.
Speak up.
There's been increased population, and without any major changes, like there hasn't been any wide-scale revegetation or anything like that.
So, okay, population's greater, and you haven't addressed some of the previous problems. Other reasons people have had? Yeah.
We've used up a lot more oil, and we keep using up more oil, and yeah, that's not getting any better.
People, yeah.
We have consumeristic lifestyles, we have to keep producing lifestyle.
Yeah, and that's probably got worse over the last, since the time that you guys were born. Other views? Other reasons?
I think perhaps socially it's better now because I think a lot more people are a lot more aware about the environment and what we're doing to it. So in terms of social stuff, I think it's better.
Okay, so that's a sort of slightly counter view that people are more aware of some of the issues?
Perhaps in that stage we're much better now than we ever have been before, but...
Just haven't changed our behaviour.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's really quickly increasing domestic electricity consumption. Domestic electricity consumption's soaring. It's still coal.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So we're getting a bit of a flavour of reasons people think things are not as good as when you were born. Those who said that things are about the same, what was your basis for making that statement?
I wouldn't really. I would agree with what was being said, but I would say the same problem sort of existed before. It's just people didn't talk as much about it, and there was like, in a positive note to counter what people said, there's been like more national parks and reserves, there's more attention being paid to conservation, and also so like there's more regulation coming in on pollution.
They're all good points, so there have been some positives as well as the negatives.
And there's like new filters in cars being developed to stop harmful emissions.
Okay. Yep. Other points from those who felt things were about the same?
We're
I think that we're solving different things now. Like we didn't recognise problems with TFCs before, but now we do, and we've only just come around to climate change really. So now it's different rather than worse or better.
Any other? That's a good synopsis. Any other views? Yeah.
Well, yeah. I reckon we've improved some aspects of the environment. We've made a couple. Like we've become more aware. So the environment, like, learnt a lot more about the environment. So everyone thinks there's a lot more problems now, but it's more on a steady decline as a very fast snap.
Well, it's a debate about whether it's a steady decline or we're going to reach some tipping point where everything goes pear-shaped pretty quickly, isn't it? So let's just park that discussion for now. Thanks for that feedback. How do we know? Well, we have to rely on some sort of information. A lot of you have talked about information. Where's that information come from? One of the problems with information about the environment is that in the past it's often come from sources that we might regard as self-interested. The chemical industry has said we're doing things better than we used to. We're polluting less. Do we believe them, or is that greenwash? The environmental movement, the NGOs have said the world's ending if you don't turn off all the lights now. Is that true, or is that exaggeration to get people's attention? So something that's changed over the last decade or so, and what I want to talk about today, is an approach to providing us with an information base to make informed decisions about the future. And I can see that the PC has translated some of my symbols to what appears to be Japanese. So you can decide whether that's better or worse than it was on my Macintosh. But here are some statistics from the Bureau of Statistics. So the Bureau of Statistics, most countries have statistics bureaus. They're generally regarded as being politically neutral, though in fact they're sometimes not politically neutral, like any other agency of the state. They can be used to promote particular views by the ruling classes. But in Australia we have a Bureau of Statistics that seems to be relatively independent of government, and for the first time at the beginning of this decade they started focusing on environmental indicators. And here are some summaries of changes in Australia over the previous 10 years from a Bureau of Statistics report in 2002. And you can see that there are many measures in which Australia's well-being and wealth improved. They're the figures on the left-hand side, but ways in which our environment continued to deteriorate. They're the points on the right-hand side, Japanese symbols aside. Most of those symbols are greater than. So life expectancies increased 3%, real incomes increased 5%, real wealth increased 1%, etc. I think on the slides there actually as I wrote them, in the printed slides. But as some of you just pointed out, there are some of these non-sustainable trends have accelerated over the past decade or so. And here are two figures from the Australia State of Environment Report, which is an official Australian government report published every 5 years. Here's what the 2006 State of Environment Report looks like in hard copy. It's mostly a CD inside the back folder and it's all online. Here's the 1996 telephone book size State of Environment Report, which was available initially only in paper copy. It's now online as well. I'll give you a website in the slides. But these figures from the 2006 report illustrate some of the what you can only describe as quite worrying trends that some of you have already mentioned. Energy use per capita. Look at the acceleration in our energy use, and as somebody commented, most of that's generated from non-renewable, climate-unfriendly sources. Look at the corresponding trend in mean temperature over the last 100 years, where red signals an increased temperature, and you can see that on average the Australian continent, like the rest of the planet, has become significantly warmer over the last 100 years, and it's now widely accepted that that's attributable largely to human-induced activities.